To get started on this project, you should have downloaded one of the brand guideline folders that has all of the information needed for this particular brand. In this case, when you unzip the file and open the folder, I'm giving you a variety of things. First off, there's going to be an ASE color swatch file. I'm going to give you the logo of each brand in a variety of different formats. And the template we're going to use is going to have some yes and no icons that we'll place inside of their information. Now when you open up the template, this is going to be an InDesign file. This InDesign file can be formatted however you want. You can change the colors, the placement, move things around. The main thing I want to emphasize for this portion of the project, however, is going to be the design and layout of their pricing guide down at the very bottom. So whenever you open this up, feel free to customize it however you want. Probably the first thing that I would focus on doing is customizing the look and feel of all of the elements around the pricing guide. Then we're going to focus on that. To do this, let's put all of the elements into our design. First off, in our swatches panel, if you have it open, let's load on the swatches for this brand. With the panel open, go to the options, go down to load swatches, and let's locate that ASE file for that brand. When we say open, this will add all the colors that I want you to use within this design. You can use tints of them, but please don't add or alter those in any way. Next, let's load up some of the logos. If we place the logo, I'm giving it to you as an EPS file. This means when you open it, you can click and drag. I'm going to do it off to the side. This is going to give all different versions of the logo as one big image. Now, if you want to use just one particular image, you can reframe and crop off that picture till you get just the picture that you want. And there it is set for there. Finally, let's go through here and add on some color and talk about fonts. Maybe for this background, I'll make it purple. We'll do the same for down here too. It doesn't have to be a tint. You can make it whatever shade or value that you want. If I wanted to add my logo on top of it, of course I need to choose one that's nice and readable. So I'm going to select this one and maybe slide it to the left here so that I can see this version of the logo. Finally, as long as everything fits on here, we can choose whatever font we need. Since this is going to be a major portion up here, I'll use something that's nice and bold. I find Blockland to be a great one. And then we'll make it larger. And then of course we can change the size of it or color of it. Same way for here, we'll change this to Avenir. I'll use medium. And maybe I'll bring down the size of it just so everything fits nicely in that particular area too. Now, if you're choosing individual fonts, you do want to make sure everything is nice and consistent. If we use Avenir or Blockland at the top, we need to use it throughout our entire design. So down here, maybe I'll choose a darker, bolder version of it, and I'll make this one much taller, and I want to make the background darker to match this color. Do pay attention that there are some other decorative elements like line work that can be also redesigned as well. In this case, maybe I'll choose the little black line that's off to the side. We'll make it thicker, change its color, and I'm going to use a decorative element for this one. Let's use the dots and let it go all the way to the bottom of my page. Great. With all of these elements in place, now let's focus on designing and creating the inside portion of the pricing guide. If we go up to Type and turn on our hidden characters, you can see this pricing guide is set up using tab format. If we want to convert this to a table, all we need to do is to highlight our text, go up to Table, and choose Convert Text to Table. Again, where our column separators are going to be tabs, rows are going to be paragraphs, and we'll say OK. And this will be the good starting point for our overall table design. Now, there are a lot of different ways we can design our table. The main thing to keep in mind is we want this to be quickly readable for its content. Notice that they're offering all these different services, and then they're emphasizing which tier level that you can pay for with the price down at the bottom. So we want people to be able to quickly read all of these services and quickly understand how much each tier will cost. The first thing I would do is to go through and resize each part so that everything fits nice and well and is easily readable. Now, that doesn't mean we can make this as small as we want. We still need everything to be shifted around and have a good balance between each little element. I'm holding down the Shift key as I click and drag and resize all of these. Another thing I may want to do at this time before I get started is to highlight everything. Let's make sure our font is also consistent as well. Since I used Avenir at the top, I'll also use Avenir down here. Again, hold Shift and click and drag. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm just going to eyeball and visually break these apart so that each of the columns are relatively similar. Finally, some other editing that you can do is if you see any kind of awkward breaks within your design. For instance, fast turnaround is obviously needs to be on two lines. So I'm going to go ahead and do a hard return and just break it to the next line. I can do the same thing for multiple locations. And since that's in 2 lines, let's go ahead and put the others in 2 lines as well too. All of this is completely up to you and how you choose to format yours. It all depends on the layout and what you're looking at. Finally, let's play around with some of the spacing and alignment. If I select everything on here and I want to center it within their columns, I can center it horizontally by choosing this, so that looks good for these. Maybe for the services, we'll have those right aligned so that they're quickly and easily read across the page. Also, if I want things to be aligned vertically from top to bottom, this is where opening up your Tables panel comes in handy. I'll go to Window, down to Type and Tables, and choose Table. Then I can select all of my cells, and I can do vertical alignment found here. That'll work well for that one. Since everything is kind of bunched together, I also need to play around with the spacing between everything. We want this to be nice and easily readable. In order to add spacing, I could go through line by line and resize and reframe each individual row, or I can highlight all my rows and I can increase their padding on the inside of it, specifically on the top and the bottom. I've got them unlinked, so if I increase the top and the bottom, you can see how it's starting to stretch everything out and get everything to fit nicely. We just don't want to go so far that we're losing any space down here at the bottom. There we go. Now I think it fits well and there's plenty of room for each. Next, let's think about how we can fill in some different colors for each area. Since each of the tiers is a different pay structure, it'd be nice and easy to highlight each area and then use our fill color to fill in each one for the different color. So in my case, I'm going to alternate my colors for this one. That's good, but it's also kind of difficult to read, especially on the darker text. So let's change our text color by highlighting those. We'll go up to our fill color at the top. Just make sure your type is selected. And if I choose paper, the white shows up nicely inside of each little area. If I needed to, maybe these on the side here can, instead of being bold or medium, can be black and nice and bold. Now I think that looks great. Swapping over to preview mode, everything is looking great, but I want to do something with these lines to make it easily readable going across or dividing everything out. If I want to get rid of my lines altogether, I can highlight all the areas, pay attention to what's highlighted inside of here. Right now I just got the outer edge, but if I choose the inner edges, I can set their size down to 0, and that completely gets rid of the lines that are on the inside of each edge. If I did want to keep the vertical lines, maybe for these I'll have some white lines between each one. I'm going to deselect all of my horizontal, just keep my vertical lines selected, and I'm going to increase the point size and the color for it. Now it's much easier to see each individual row and each individual column. To take it a step further, instead of keeping everything in one column the same line, to make it easier to read row by row, you could highlight each row. I'm going to do it with the second row here. With all of those highlighted, even though they're a different color, you can have them also be the same tint. I'm going to bring the tint down to about 60%. Whoops, let's do it one more time. Highlight each one. Do make sure your fill swatch is in the front. That's what we want. Now let's bring it down to 60%. Doing this manually, line by line, will make it easier to distinguish every other row that we have. Unfortunately, there's no quick and easy way of doing this. It does have to be done manually, but once you've got it set up for these few rows, it does make it a whole lot easier to see all the others. If I did want to get rid of the lines that are on the top edge here, so I'm going to highlight all of those. In this case, we'll select each one. Let's set those to be 0. So now it looks like they're on the outside edge for that. We'll do the same for down here. That looks good. Finally, let's get rid of this one on the outside edge for this one. In this case, I only want to get rid of the one that's on the left-hand side, and I'll set it to 0. That looks good. And maybe I'll decorate all of the lines that are in between each little service that's being offered. There's an infinite number of ways that you can format your designs. Please don't think that you have to keep it the default or even follow along with what I'm doing. Notice how decorating the lines is one quick and easy way of adding some extra embellishment that also fits with the other embellishments that we have on our design as well. Maybe the last thing I'll do is I'll make these up at the top be nice and bold so that they're nice and readable. Now the last thing I'm going to require for this project is to change out every Y with a green check and every N with a red X. We want to do this by replacing it with an anchored image. If we go to File and Place, locate that Illustrator file of the yes and no. Now because it's an Illustrator file, whenever I say open, it's only going to load up the first image on that on their artboards. To get the next image, we can go to File and Place. This time, when you select the file, choose Show Import Options and say Open. This will let you pick the second image, and now we can place it. I'm going to try to place it and let it be roughly the same size as the other one that I did for the first one. Now to place the image as an anchored object, what we want to do is to select both of the images, and let's drag them over here. We need to resize these images so that they're roughly the same size as the Y and the N. So with both of them selected, I'm going to hold down the Shift and the Command and click and drag to resize and rescale them. It's okay if they're off by a little bit, but roughly about that size should be able to work out. Now I'm going to replace the Y. Choosing only the green image, go up to Edit, and we're going to cut it away. Then use your Type tool to highlight the Y. Then you can go to Edit and Paste. From here, you can paste it over any Y that's within your design. So take just a moment to highlight each, and as you see them, paste them in here. Command V being the keyboard shortcut. Let's do the same now with the N. Again, choose just the red X this time. With it selected, go to Edit and Cut. Then use your Type tool to highlight an N, and then Command V to paste it on top of the N. All right. With all of these done, we can go back into preview mode and view our entire document. If you see anything else that you need to make changes to, now is a good time to be able to do it. For instance, I'm going to move this down just a bit and maybe make this text a little bit bigger. so that it shows up well as a headline. Save this up as an InDesign document and also export it as a PDF. I've got it saved now as an InDesign, but let's go to File, down to Export. Make sure Adobe PDF print version is selected and have your name inside of this document file. When you hit save, we'll export that and you'll upload this in addition to the InDesign document to our class page.